What is up, guys? Welcome to my all achievements quick guide. We're going to be blazing through this game, and what the goal of this playthrough is to get you guys from base new game to all achievements in about 7 to 8 hours. We're going to see if I actually hit that mark, but that is the goal. Just to be clear, this is not a speed run per se. So there are going to be some things that I do that are not necessarily required, but those things will be relatively few. We're going to leave a lot of the optional stuff undone, really sticking to the main things that need to be done for all achievements. But the goal is for this to be easy to follow. So there are going to be some things that I pick up along the way that are just for convenience's sake. But for the most part, we're going to be sticking to that critical path, getting all achievements. As I said, I expect it to take about 7 to 8 hours, which is in contrast to my 100% walkthrough, which is in excess of 60 hours. So all that being said, let's get started. I'm going to be starting with the Vagabond class. I just feel like the Vagabond class has probably the most balanced starting stats, at least for what the build is I'm going to be going for in this playthrough, which is more of a melee based build. Especially for going quick, it's going to be easier to be more melee centric as opposed to magic centric, and you'll see what I mean when we kind of get into it. So I'm just going to name my character here, keep it simple. I'm not going to do much tweaking because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that. The main thing is for this starting screen, other than what class you pick, is going to be the keepsake. I'm going to start with the golden seed, which will give us an extra healing flask usage right at the beginning. Really, any of these other things aren't going to help us out that much at the beginning. The Crimson Amber Medallion, we're going to be using other talismans, so that's not really going to help us for very long. Golden seed is going to give us an additional heal right off the start, which is going to be very useful. Stone sword keys, we're going to get plenty of those, so I'd recommend probably sticking to the golden seed, but you can choose whatever you want for this. That being said, let's go ahead and finish things up and get started. So we're going to be blazing through this game at a pretty quick pace. If you are moderately skilled at this game, I think you should be able to go through this guide pretty much step by step and get through what we're going to get through. There are a couple parts that are a bit challenging, going to be more challenging than if you're just playing through the game normally. But anyway, you have to pick up that item there, and then that allows you to open up these doors. So again, we are going to be skipping a lot of the optional content of this game. So there are a lot of caves, dungeons, and whatnot that we will not be partaking in, and you know, a lot of stuff that would make your playthrough a lot longer if you chose to do it. But that being said, it is still possible to get all achievements with skipping what I would say is the vast majority of the game. All right, so what you can do here is you can just jump off the side here. Once the life bar pops up for the grafted scion, you don't even have to fight them. You can just jump off the edge because you're going to die anyway, most likely, unless you take a long time. Unless you're very patient and very skilled, you're probably not going to kill the grafted scion anyways. So just jump off the edge. I'm skipping all cutscenes here. And we got our flasks. You're going to want to make sure that you have both of them equipped. They're both equipped by default. And so your red one recovers health, the blue one recovers your FP, which allows you to do special skills in this game. I tend to keep one blue flask and put all my other flasks as red flasks, but you can tweak the ratio to be whatever you want. I said that, you know, the goal is to get all achievements quickly. One thing that I'm going to be doing that that will make this playthrough more followable and more repeatable by people is I'm going to be getting a lot of graces that we don't technically need to get, because those will act as warp points if you want to use them. Also, I'm going to be getting all of the map fragments, things like that, just to make things more convenient. I'm going to be using beacons on the map a lot to show, like, kind of for navigation, to show people where to go. So anyway, this first part, you just kind of got to walk or run through this starting area, open up that door, go up the elevator, open up the door. Out here, I'm going to go ahead and trigger this grace because that will help us because we're going to warp back here later on. I'm just going to pick this up. This is for multiplayer only. We're not going to be doing multiplayer in this playthrough, but I get that anyways just because otherwise it's going to show up at all of those whatever they're called, the summoning pools. It's going to show up at every single one, and I'm just going to pick it up because it's going to annoy me if I don't. That's the tree sentinel. We're not going to be fighting him, so I recommend kind of making a wide arc around him so he doesn't aggro to you, because he is very deadly. He is very difficult to fight at the beginning of the game. So I recommend just steering clear of him. Get that golden rune right there. That's going to help us with leveling up later. And then, of course, get this grace, because this is sort of, for the lack of a better word, a hub of sorts. We're going to be using this merchant a bit for things later on, but we're not going to talk to him yet because we don't have any runes to buy anything with. So for now, we're just going to head this way. You see that I don't have anything on my map yet. We are going to pick up this map fragment right here to reveal some of the detail in the map. But for now, just turn here out of the church, and you're going to be following this kind of dirt path for a while, and for the first long stretch of this playthrough, we're really not going to be fighting anything. I mean, you can fight if you want to, but it's not necessary. I'm going to be avoiding combat for the most part. The first couple of episodes is going to be largely setup. You're going to want to make sure that you get those kukris. And I just rolled there. I pressed the circle button to roll. I'm playing this on PS5, by the way. And I am slow rolling here, so I'm going to fix that when we get to our side of grace up here. So you want to kind of make a wide arc around this encampment here. And the goal here is we're shooting for this side of grace right here that we're going to unlock. And as I said, these function as your checkpoints and your warp points. You can warp to any side of grace pretty much at any time unless you're involved in combat at that point in time. So this side of grace you're going to want to trigger. You're also going to want to rest at this one because this is where you're going to get your horse. And we're going to be doing a lot of horseback riding in this playthrough to get from place to place as quickly as possible. So once you get through that cutscene, Melina is going to talk to you, and she is going to give us the spectral steed whistle, which is what we use to summon our horse. And gameplay with the horse is very fluid in this game. You can summon your horse pretty much at any time you're in the overworld map. So you'll see here we have this opportunity to upgrade our flasks. We can add a charge to our flask, and that's because we started with the golden seed. So if you started with the golden seed as well, you will also have this opportunity to upgrade your flask right away. I suggest that you do that. All right, and then once we get out of here, you'll notice it's nighttime. And this gives us a tutorial for horseback riding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix my equipment right here. I'm going to unequip this halberd because that's what's making us slow roll. If we have that unequipped, it's going to lower our burden. You see we're rolling a bit faster now. It turned our heavy roll to a medium roll, which is exactly what we want. Also, you're going to see here on my pouch, I'm going to equip my spectral steed whistle that we got. That's what I said, mentioned earlier. We'll summon our horse. I'm going to equip that to the down arrow on my pouch. So if you hold triangle or whatever the equivalent button is on your controller, that gives you access to your pouch. So if I hold triangle and press down, I will summon my horse. And so we're going to be summoning our horse quite frequently in this playthrough. So I want that to be equipped on the down arrow here so I can summon it whenever I want without having to go to the menu or navigate through my items here. I don't want it clogging up a space on my items here that I have currently reserved for my flasks. So if I hold triangle, press down, that gets me on my horse. And if I press the L3 button on my controller, that gets me off my horse. So what we're going to do now is get on the horse and we're going to ride back behind these carriages here. What we want to do is get to the second carriage over here. It's going to have a weapon that we want in it. It's going to have the flail, which we're going to use a little bit in this playthrough, but not too much. But there is a specific spot that I'm going to be using it. If you get hit a couple times, not a big deal. Just kind of roll away and then summon your horse. And then we're going to loop back over here and get our first map fragment, which is right by this little obelisk here. There we go. So we found the map. And we have enemies aggro to us now, so we can't use the map right now to warp. So rest at this site of grace, so that'll reset all the enemies, reset the aggro. So after resting here, you'll be able to warp. And as I said, this is kind of a mini hub of sorts. We're going to warp back here, and we're going to get our first set of spirit summons that we are going to be using this playthrough as well. So this witch is sitting right here. She's going to be much more important later. She has an entire side quest that involves one of the endings of the game. But for now, we talk to her and we say we can call the spectral steed. And she gives us the spirit calling bell and the lone wolf ashes. So what these do is mainly during boss fights, you can summon these and they really help divert the aggro of the boss away from you. So it makes a lot of these boss fights much more manageable. We're going to be using these for the first bit of the game, and then later on we're going to get some more powerful summons that we use. I like to equip these in my pouch as well. You know, I have my spectral steed whistle on the down arrow. I like putting my spirit summons on the left arrow, and that gives me quick access to them when I want to summon them in the heat of battle. I suggest you put them on one of these arrows. You can set these up on whatever directional arrows you want, but this is just how I prefer to have mine set up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to warp back to this site of grace that we just unlocked here, the gate front. And we're going to be doing some exploring here. Before we do that, I'm going to switch it to daytime, and the reason for that is because at nighttime, additional enemies spawn. So to get those enemies to not spawn, and there actually are some additional bosses that spawn at night, and so to get rid of that possibility, I'm going to switch it to daytime before we start exploring. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head along this road. An enemy just aggroed to me, so it took me away from my map. So I'm going to rest here so I can have access to my map real quick and show you guys where we're going. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right around here is going to be a golden seed. And then we're going to head up under this bridge right here and go around this way. And this is going to take us around the castle. We don't have the map unlocked for this area yet, but we're going to get it in just a little bit. And this will help us immensely with our setup. So as I said, the first couple episodes are really going to be getting our character set up, getting our character nice and beefy and strong, so that way when we start taking on the bosses that give us trophies and whatnot and start taking on really the meat of the game, we will be very well prepared for that. So we're not going to be doing a lot. So that's the golden seed I mentioned that we want to pick up. So we want to do that for starters, because especially since this is going to be somewhat of a minimalist playthrough, we want to make sure that that we are strong before we get really involved in combat. And so, as I said, the bulk of the first couple episodes, we might get a couple of trophies in the first 2 episodes or so, but really the bulk of it's going to be getting our character set up. So at this side of grace, just jump over here, and there's a stone sword key. These are going to be used to unlock some optional areas later that some of which will involve items required for trophies. So just a real quick bit on the trophies. Most of them revolve around killing bosses. Now let's see, as I said, I put a beacon down here. Let's see, yes, this is where we're going to go, under this bridge. Most of them revolve around killing bosses, but there are some that revolve around picking up special items called legendary items. So there's a trophy for getting all of the legendary weapons. There's a trophy for getting all of the legendary spells, a trophy for all the legendary spirit ashes, and a trophy for all the legendary talismans. So we will be doing all of the dungeons and bosses and optional content that's required for picking up those legendary items, because again, those are required for trophies. And then there are some technically non-story related optional bosses that give you a trophy as well, so we will be killing all of those in this playthrough. Again, this is for all achievements, and we will be doing, again, the goal for this is about 7 to 8 hours or so, and we'll see if we can pull it off. That's actually a pretty good time for getting all of the achievements in this game. So all right, so we're heading around this cliffside. Make sure you don't fall off the edge. And this is actually taking us to the next section of the map. So the first section of the map that we unlocked is Limgrave. So the next kind of major area of the map is called Liurnia, and that's where we're headed to now, because there's a lot of stuff in Liurnia that's going to help our character get stronger. And then, then after that, we're going to start tackling. Once we get our character stats to be what we want, at that point we're going to start tackling, the dungeons and bosses that we're going to be tackling in this game to get all the stuff that we need. So you want to unlock this grace right here. If you rest at it, we get another cutscene.
Forgive me to determine if you had. It seems Torrent, whereas there is, but I can take gathering.
And she's going to take us to the Roundtable hold, which is the main hub of the game. This is where we're going to be doing a lot of our, upgrading our weapons and upgrading our spirit summons and things like that. Once you get here, we're going to get our first trophy, the Roundtable hold. We're not going to spend much time here for now because there's really not much for us to do here right now. We're going to warp right back to Limgrave, and I'm going to take off this beacon because we don't need it anymore. So we're going to warp back to the lake-facing cliffs, which is where we just were. And before we go anywhere, I'm going to equip the kukris we got at the very beginning of the game. Again, we picked up these kukris when we were leaving the church here. we were going in these woods. We got the kukris right here if you didn't manage to pick them up before we got to this Gatefront Ruins and got this grace. So make sure you equip those because we're going to be using them if they're on. So you see if you cycle to them using the D-pad, the down D-pad button on your controller, you can equip them, and then on my PlayStation controller you use square to use whatever whatever item is equipped on your toolbar there. So what we're going to do now is head to the right of the grace, and we're going to be dropping down on these little tombstones to get to the next level below where we're at. And it's easiest to do this on horseback because you have a double jump with your horse. So if you press X or whatever corresponding button on your controller, you'll jump once, but if you press it again, you'll do a double jump, which is actually will help you a lot with navigating some of these more difficult sections of platforming. So drop all the way to the bottom. If you're not careful enough and you fall too far down, you will die. So just be cognizant of that. So we're gonna follow this kind of path right here. There's gonna be a couple spots where you see these balloons in the air, and if you shoot the balloons, it's gonna give us an item that we can use later to get a bunch of runes, which we're going to use for leveling up and buying stuff. So we're just following this main path. There's a grace right there, but we don't really need it right now. So there's the first balloon. Just follow the path. The balloons are right off. Try not to aggro anybody, but if you press the R3 button, you can lock on and get kind of close to it, and then press square or the corresponding button on your controller, and you hit the balloon, and you see we just got a golden rune 6. That's going to give us like 2,000 runes. This is going to help immensely with some of the items we need in the early game, and also with getting a couple early levels as well. And there should be one more in this area. I'm looking around for it. There should be 2 of these balloons that are floating in the air. I'm going to loop back and make sure that I get this other one because it's important that we get these runes. They help us especially at the early game. Okay, the first one I passed. But there are 2 that you should be able to get right in this vicinity. So here we go. Get our second one. And then that's all we're doing here. So as soon as you get that second one, warp back to the that first grace there. This is again the first one that we unlocked here in Liurnia. The next thing we're going to do is go to the other side, to the left. We're headed kind of in a southwest trajectory, and we're going to go to this church here. This is the Church of Erith. And right here, we're going to pick up our first sacred tear. So what the sacred tears do is they increase the potency of your flasks. So your flasks will now heal more of your health than they did before once you use them. Use them at a site of grace, much like you use the golden seeds. And there's an NPC there that we don't need to talk to. Let's see. I'm going to go out the front door here. It's probably going to be the easiest to find the path. Yeah. So once you go out the front door of that church, and what we're going to do now is we're going to head down this path and just follow this path. When we get to the kind of the ground level, there's going to be another site of grace that we're going to unlock, and there's going to be a merchant that we're going to use to buy a couple things from. So this is an enemy encampment. You can just go straight through the middle. Just kind of use circle to dash with your horse. And these enemies will aggro to you, but we're faster than them, so they're going to de-aggro pretty quickly. Plus, there's a site of grace you can use down here to rest at if you want to, and reset the enemies. Because once you rest, any enemy that you've killed will come back. Any enemy that you've aggroed will go back to their starting location, but in this case, we don't need to worry about it. You'll see that there are some of these items here on the ground. You can pick them up. That's a mushroom. We're going to be picking up a few mushrooms along the way. We're going to use those to craft some items a little bit later on in the game. Now, this merchant has something for sale that we want. So we're going to sell our golden runes. This is the one that we picked up right at that first Church of Ella that we were at the very beginning of the game. We're going to sell that for 400. And these tier 6s give us 2,000 a piece. So we're going to sell both of those for 4,000. Those are the ones we got from shooting the balloons just a second ago. And we're going to use that to purchase the lantern. We want the lantern because that's going to give us an extra source of light. Some of the dungeons that we're going to go in later are going to be quite a bit dark. So this lantern here is going to help us out immensely with visibility. So the lantern is something that I do use quite a bit. I actually prefer to equip the lantern on the up arrow. So I'm going to take this memory of grace off. I'm going to switch it to the lantern. And you see, put it on. And even outside, it gives you just a little bit of extra light. and it's going to help a lot with visibility. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go get this map fragment. This is going to unlock part of Liurnia. It's going to give us a little bit of extra detail on this portion of the map, much like we have more detail here now. So we're going to go ahead and get this. As I did, just put a little beacon there on your map. It's going to help you navigate to it as quickly as possible. This one's going to have enemies around it, so make sure you just go in, grab it as quickly as possible, and then bail. There we go, got it. And then you're going to want to head from there, because we can't unlock our map, because we can't open our map because we have aggroed some enemies, unfortunately. So kind of head in this northwest direction. You see your compass at the top of your screen. That grace we don't really need, so I'm going to go straight past it. What we're headed to right now is in Laskiar Ruins is this circular kind of gazebo right in the middle of it. And make sure you go quickly. Make sure you do not let any of these enemies hit you. What we want is this warp gate that's going to take us somewhere else. In Liurnia, and so make sure you go to that warp gate as quickly as possible. Don't give those enemies that spawned a chance to hit you. Now this grace we are going to unlock because we are going to need it for later. So make sure you get this grace right here, guys. All right, and then we're gonna hop on our horse, head back the way we came, and then right when you get to this little turn right here, you're going to want to go to this balcony and fix your camera so you can see this little rock jutting out directly in front of my horse's head. You're going to want to jump out onto that rock. If you fall all the way to the ground, it's a death. So make sure you land on that rock. You can fix your camera on it pretty easily, and just make sure you jump straight forward just like I did. Now here is going to be kind of our first graveyard. You'll see these items that are on these tombs here. You can pick them up. And these are all going to be rune items. So again, for leveling up, these are invaluable. You're going to get shot at and whatnot by these plants. Some of them are even actually able to poison you. Just make sure that if you get hit and you're low on health, make sure you heal. If you get poisoned, which I'm probably going to get poisoned right here, it's not that big of a deal. You can just heal. Your health is going to decline steadily, but if it gets too low, you can just heal. We're about to get to another site of grace in just a minute. And once we get to that site of grace, we can rest at it. And sites of grace will restore all of your flasks, they will restore all of your health, and they will cure any status effects. So once we're done with this, we picked up all of those runes. We're going to head this way, kind of around eastward, southeastward, around this wall here, and we're going to get to another site of grace. And actually our next map as well. So once you have access to open your map again, once you've de-aggroed those enemies, put a beacon right next to that map, and that's where we're headed next. And there's a site of grace right next to the map as well. And make sure as your health declines, if you get poisoned like I just did, make sure you're healing, just so your health doesn't get all the way down to the bottom and you die. But again, once we rest at this site of grace that's directly in front of us, our health and flasks will be completely restored. Okay, so there's our site of grace. Gonna go ahead and rest at it. And you'll notice once we've rested, our health is back and our poison is gone. So let's pick up this map. And two ways to get rid of beacons. One way is to make physical contact with it and it'll go away. The other way is to pull it up on your map, and you can click on it and it'll go away that way as well. So you see we have more of the Liurnia section opened up. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to warp back to the Roundtable hold, because now that we have more runes, there's some more stuff that we're going to buy here. First thing we're going to want to do is talk to this lady in the red hood, red cape. This is Roundtable. She's going to be useful to us later for upgrading our spirit summons. Make sure you exhaust her dialogue. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is go over here and talk to the weaponsmith. And you'll see he's going to be the guy that we upgrade our weapons with. You can also ask him about Roundtable. You have to do this back and forth thing a couple times between him and Roundtable. And then eventually Roundtable, she'll move right here, and you can use her to upgrade your spirit summons, which we don't have the materials to do that yet, but we will be upgrading our spirit summons later on in the game. So this is actually a very important step to do. So make sure you don't skip doing this, because you are eventually going to want to upgrade your spirit summons. So talk to her again, then you're going to want to talk to him again.
matter. The girl. Sir, I refuse. I don't.
Okay, and then we're gonna want to talk to her one more time.
I suppose I'll ask Ma.
All right, now what you want to do now is just rest at the site of grace, and then this will reset her location if you went through those dialogue steps. You see that she's no longer here. Now she is sitting right here, and then we'll be able to use her later to upgrade our spirit summons. So what we're going to do now at the weaponsmith table, we can't upgrade our weapons yet, and these aren't even the weapons we're going to be using in the playthrough. But what we can do is we can sell all of our runes. You can use these individually as items, but it is much quicker just to sell them, and you get the same number of runes if you sell them as if you would if you used them for items. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over here. And this is where the merchant is going to be. And we're going to buy a couple of things from this merchant. So the main things you want from this merchant are the longbow and also the finger seal. So make sure you pick up these two. We're going to be using both of them a bit later. And then what we're going to want to do also with the rest of the runes that we have is level up. So we see here with our flasks, we can add a charge to a flask because we got another golden seed. So we have another flask usage, and we can increase the amount replenished by flasks because we picked up a sacred tier. So you'll notice now, if we go back to the main screen, we have a flask of crimson tears +1. That's because we use the sacred tier, and now that it's at +1, it's going to heal more. It's going to restore more of our health when we use our flask than it did before, which is quite useful. So we will be getting a few of those sacred tears in this playthrough for sure. Now what we're going to do is level up. So we're going to be putting some points into dexterity, so that will allow us to use our bow. And also the flail that we have requires 18 dexterity, so we'll be upgrading our dexterity to 18 to be able to use that. The next thing we're going to want to upgrade is our endurance so that we can hold more equipment. And we'll be bumping up our endurance a bit, and also our strength as well. So that should be good enough for now. What we're going to do now is actually warp back to the Church of Ella because the merchant here sells arrows. And so we're going to need those arrows to be able to use our bow. We're going to be using our bow at a few points in this playthrough to, well, there's some more of those balloons that we're going to shoot down that will give us a bunch of runes that we want. And there's some other places in this playthrough we're going to be using our bow as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the remainder of runes that I have, and I'm going to pick up arrows. 79 might even be enough for the entire playthrough. So we're going to roll with that for now. I'm going to put my bow here on this slot next to my sword. And I'm still fast rolling, which is good. And then that seal that we bought, this is going to allow us to cast incantations a bit later. There's one incantation that we're going to be using, so I'm going to use it here. And we can't even use it yet because we don't have enough faith. And actually putting this on puts us at heavy load, so we're not going to be able to equip that yet. So we're going to put that on later when we have more endurance. Just a little bit about the bow. So when you pull it out and equip it, press R1 to ready it. And then when you press L1, you can zoom in and zoom out, and that will help you aim. And then since we have our arrows equipped, we just bought some arrows. You press R1 to fire an arrow, and that's how you can fire them. You can also just lock onto enemies when you're close to them like you would as if you were fighting with your sword. And you can shoot arrows locked on as well. So most of the arrows that we're going to be shooting is probably going to be locked on, but I wanted to show you how to use your bow real quick. So what we're going to do now is we are going to warp back to this site of grace that we unlocked right by that map fragment. And then we're going to want to travel south from that spot to right here. So put a marker right here. That's going to help with navigation. We're going to warp back to the Academy Gate town. And we're going to be doing a bit more horseback riding. There's going to be a lot of riding around on our horse in this playthrough, especially since, as I said, we're going to be skipping a lot of the optional content in the game. So we're just going to be going from point to point, riding a lot on our horse. This is the tutorial for how to use your bow. I just explained that, and then that's for sorceries and incantations. We're not doing that yet. No, those lobsters are deadly. Get away from them as quickly as possible. When you get far enough away, they're going to be shooting this blast of water at you, and that was just it right there. If it hits you, it does quite a bit of damage. It won't be a one-shot kill, but it will do a lot of damage. So I recommend kind of running in a serpentine path to try to not allow it to hit you, or to try to get away from it as much as possible. If it does hit you, just heal right away. All right.
Please. Hello, my mistress.
So we need to talk to this NPC. She's going to help us later.
Oh, what
And she gives us a quest.
these
We need to get her necklace back. We're going to be doing that in just a bit.
by striking this barrier.
Okay. And make
I am no foe of
I
yours.
jumped and jumping in this game actually does a small bit of damage, so I actually accidentally hit her.
That you have
But
reconsidered. Please. I
gosh.
must have the necklace back.
I'm jumping to advance the I'm pressing X to advance the dialogue. That's also the jump button in this game. And so I need to make sure that her dialogue is all the way out. Okay, we're good. Just make sure you don't hit her with your sword and you should be good. All right, so now we're going to warp back to the Academy Gate Town. And there is actually a golden seed that we're going to pick up in this vicinity. And then so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to approximately here-ish is where the golden seed is going to be. And then after that, we're going to head right here, which is going to be our next site of grace. And then we're going to head here, which is there's going to be our first scarab that we're going to kill. And then here, there's going to be a site of grace that we're going to unlock for later. So map all those spots on your map. And this is just a short horseback ride away. Eventually, it's going to require 2 golden seeds for us to upgrade our flask, and then 3 golden seeds, and then 4 golden seeds, etc., until we've maxed it out. We might already be at the point to where it requires 2 seeds to upgrade. At this point, we have access to our map, so it's probably quicker just to warp back than it is to ride to the next, directly to the next spot. So we're going to warp, and then we're going to head north to this site of grace that we want to unlock for later. Just ignore all these folks, the plants and enemies and whatnot. So as I said, these first couple episodes are going to be mainly prep, and then the rest of the game is going to be very heavy dungeon and combat focused. We're going to be rolling through bosses, rolling through dungeons, one after another very quickly. So it will start out a little bit slow, or it'll seem a little bit slow, but then after that, once we're in good shape, the pace is going to pick up significantly in terms of combat and bosses and whatnot. So, all right, so what I want to do is unlock that site of grace for later, and then ride through here. We're going to hang a right once we get the option to turn, and then there's going to be a scarab that we kill. There's going to be a few of these scarabs that we encounter throughout the game. These ones, you kill them, and they give you upgrade stones. For that we're going to use for our weapon that we're going to get a little bit later. And this is going to be very important. So hiding behind this rock, you can lock onto it and then just swing away until it's dead. And once it's dead, this is a guaranteed drop, by the way. If you kill this particular scarab, a guaranteed Somber Smithing Stone 3. That's what we want. That's exactly what we wanted. So what we want to do now is go inside this building. There's going to be a site of grace that we want to unlock for later. And we're not going to go in here yet, but we want the site of grace because it's going to help us. We'll be able to warp straight to this place as opposed to having to ride to it. All right, so what we're going to want to do now is we're going to head due north. And we're going to want to go to this area. There's going to be an outpost that's going to give us an incantation that we want. So that scarab we killed gave us a smithing stone. There are other scarabs in the game that'll give you your healing flask usages back. There are other scarabs in the game that'll give you spells, other scarabs that'll give you weapon arts. So there's a wide range of what those scarabs will give you. But as I said, that one scarab that we just killed is a guaranteed Somber Smithing Stone 3. And that's something that we are going to want later on when we start upgrading our weapon. So we're going to want to get up on this little plateau here. And let's see how accurate my beacon was. Not right on the money, but not too far either. I'm going to run into it to despawn the beacon so it goes away. And then we want to go inside this encampment, Directly ahead, there's an item here. You pick it up. It is Flame Cleanse Me. That's the incantation that we want. So once you get it, just run away. Eventually get far enough away to where we can warp back. Once the game allows you to pull up your map again, once you're far enough away from the enemies. I'm just kind of mashing the button, hoping it lets me, there we go. So now what we want to do is we want to warp back to here. We could have just rode back. You can do either way. So what we're going to do now, pull up our map. We're going to want to head straight here, which there's a site of grace here that we want to unlock. And then after that, we want to head kind of around here. There's going to be a bunch of these balloon things that we're going to use our bow to pop. And then this is just a complete guess. Right around here is going to be a site of grace and a map fragment that we want. And so we're going to follow this path. It's not hard to find the map fragment once we get closer to it, but that's just kind of a guess since this part of the map just isn't available to us yet. So what we're going to do, get back on our horse, do some more riding to that first point, which I said is a site of grace that we're going to unlock for later. And this is one of my favorite areas of the map. I'm a big fan of Liurnia. I just think it's quite scenic. I love the geography and just the land features and whatnot. Harder to see everything right now because in you know, my playthrough right now, even though it's randomized, it's foggy and rainy, so we can't see. The visibility is kind of low, which is a bummer, but can't control the weather. All right, we're coming up on our first beacon that we placed down underneath this broken bridge. It's getting to be late day, so when we get to this site of grace, I'm going to reset it back to morning so we don't explore here at nighttime. At nighttime in this section of the map, there are some very tough bosses that spawn that we do not want to find ourselves in an encounter with. So here's our grace right over here. And as I said, I'm going to switch it to morning time. It's the time until morning. And make sure you have your bow equipped for this point, because we are going to be using our bow. So you can use your bow on horseback. Run by the lobsters. Kind of do a zigzag, so hopefully if they try to shoot you with their blast water beam, they miss. I don't think that one even saw me, which is perfectly fine by me. Okay, so see a bunch of these balloons over here. We're going to get a ton of runes from them. So yes, I do recommend shooting every single one of these. It's free runes. Now they drop enemies, but just run past them and you'll be just fine. Bunch of golden rune 6s from here, which is wonderful. So you notice I am locking onto these. Once I lock on, I fire my arrow. I'm going to circle around, just make sure I don't miss one. Because again, these are free runes, my friends, so definitely take advantage. And especially early on in the game, 2,000 runes is a lot. All right, just going to look back, make sure I didn't miss any of them. I don't see any. So right here is where we want to head. This is going to be where our next map fragment and another site of grace is going to be. And this is going to be the third and final map fragment of the Liurnia area of the map. So let's see, where's my beacon? My beacon was pretty dang close. That was a good guess. So as usual, I'm just going to run into the beacon to despawn it. Let's get our map fragment. I really didn't need to dismount my horse there, but that's fine. I'm going to unequip the kukris because I'm not going to use them anymore. Now that we have the bow, we don't need the kukris. Now, if you had a lot of them, the kukris are actually really good. They do bleed damage. And as we'll see later, bleed damage is very helpful. So now we have all of Liurnia unlocked. You'll see this is a massive section of map here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head pretty much due northeast to about right here. And we're going to go straight through here. There's going to be enemies, just run past them. And we're about to run into our first illusory wall. So this is actually an illusory wall. Once you get to it, just attack it. It'll disappear. We got our Site of Grace right here. So unlock the Site of Grace. We're going to be using it for later. And this is EG. You can talk to him. He sells Somber smithing stones 1 through 4. We're going to be getting them for free, so we don't need to buy them. But in case you want to use them for other weapons, and if you don't want to use the exact weapon that I'm using, you want to use something else, you can buy those stones from him and use them to upgrade. Let's see. So what we want to do is backtrack through here, kind of circle around the edge here until we find a spot where we can drop down to ground level, or to sea level, I should say. So this little spot where there's a rock right there, you can drop down. And so I can't pull up my map to show where we're headed next, but if you can't pull up your map, just head in general. Once you drop down, head northeast. And we're going to be going right here for a Somber smithing stone 4, and then right here for a Site of Grace. So again, he sells Sombers 1 through 4. We picked up a 3 from killing that scarab earlier. We're about to pick up a 4. And we're going to get a 1 and 2 in just a bit as well. So you can buy them if you want, but we're going to get them all for free. So save our runes for leveling up and for other stuff that we need. So here is our Somber 4. Then we're going to go around this side for a Grace. Okay, so we're going to, now that we have this Grace, we're actually going to warp back to the Church of Ella, because remember we have our merchant here. And we're going to sell him all of our runes, and we're going to basically use that for leveling up. But you need to make sure that you save at least 1,000, because we're going to need to buy something for 1,000 runes in just a bit. We're going to sell all of our runes.
Goodbye.
And that gives us more than 10,000, which is quite a bit. Okay, so for leveling up, we're going to want to get our endurance, we'll say, to probably about 15 for now. We're going to want to get our strength up. We can't level it up any more than this right now, but that's just fine. We're going to want to get our strength up to 18 as well to use the weapon that we're going to want to use a bit later. But that endurance is going to increase our equipment load capability, so that will make it so if once we equip heavier stuff, that we're still going to have our faster roll. And then later on, we're going to be leveling up our vigor quite a bit, which will give us some more HP. And we're also going to be leveling up our faith, which will give us the ability to use that Flame Cleanse Me spell that we picked up. The Flame Cleanse Me spell cures poison and Scarlet Rot, which is a more severe form of poison. As I said, make sure that you have at least 1,000 runes left. If you're following this path exactly, you should have more than 2,000, which is perfect. We're going to warp back here. And so Flame Cleanse Me, yes, it cures poison and Scarlet Rot. And there's a few areas later on in the game where we are going to, be encountering that, and we're going to want the ability to cure it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head pretty much straight this way. We're going to want to make a stop here, which is where we're going to buy that necklace. And then we're going to want to go here, which is going to give us an item that we're going to use for later. And then we're going to head over here, which is going to be another Site of Grace. So once you have those markers on your map, you can pretty much just line up with them on your compass and then head straight in that direction. Another lobster that popped up. Those lobsters are actually some of the toughest enemies in the game. Even when you're at a high level and you're strong, those things are still hard to fight. Okay, so the first marker we put down is the Boiler Prawns track. This is the guy that sells us the necklace that our friend was asking for. We're not going to go back to her just yet. We're going to go back to her later on.
Show me, and I'll consider part.
But for now, while this is on the way to what we were doing anyways, we're going to go ahead and pick up this necklace for 1,000 runes. And that's all we want him for. So now we're going to head straight to our number 2 marker. And this is going to give us a buff that we're going to be able to use. We're not going to be able to activate this buff until we get another flask that we're going to get just a bit later. Once we get that flask, we'll be able to use this buff, which will give us extra dexterity, which the weapon we'll be using later will scale off dexterity, so that extra dexterity will help us deal a bit more damage. I picked up some mushrooms there, and those spawn in the same place every time, so don't worry about randomization. Those crafting materials spawn in the same place. Okay, so now we're heading straight over to this third marker that we have. And this isn't a straight path. There's actually going to be some rocks in the way and whatnot. Most likely that we're going to have to navigate around, which not a big problem. Just make sure once you kind of get around them that you're lined back up with the spot here. And here we are. So despawn the beacon. Get our site of grace. So where we're headed now is called the village of Albinaurics. So kind of put a beacon right here. The path up is actually underneath this plateau. You'll see that there's this giant rock formation here. This section of the map is showing us what's on top. Where we're going is actually underneath it. So just put a beacon right there where I put it. And that's going to more or less lead us to the path up to this little village we need to get to. And this swamp right here is actually poisonous. If you're riding on horseback, the poison buildup does not occur. But I'll show you real quick. If we were to dismount, walk on foot, then we would get poison buildup. So make sure you're going through here on horseback. And here's our section here that's going to take us up where we need to go. I'm going to put on my lantern because it is a bit dark. So one thing you want to make sure that you pick up is if you kind of hug the cliff edge, right here, there's going to be an item called a larval tear. And this is the item that allows you to respec. We'll be able to respec our stats later. I'm not going to respec my character, but if you want to respec, you are more than welcome to do so. If you want to have a different build or whatever. So I'm going to rest at this grace. This part is a little bit tricky because there is an enemy right up here called a perfumer, and he is very tough. He spams this flaming perfume, and if it hits you, it does quite a bit of damage. What you want to do is roll into this pot, and it's actually going to reveal a guy. You see this perfumer's coming over here, and you need to exhaust his dialogue because he gives us a key item. I'm going to see if I can do it before the perfumer comes over here. Looks like he stopped. So we want to talk to him and exhaust his dialogue as fast as possible. Looks like he just aggroed to us. But what you want is that Haligtree secret medallion, right? That is what we're here for. If he runs over quicker for you than he did for me, what you can do is get on horseback and jump on top of these roofs. Whoops. And you see why he is so deadly. Anyway, so what you can do is if he aggroed to you earlier than he did for me, you can go over here and jump on top of these roofs with Torrent and get over here. And then if you dismount right here and crouch down, eventually he'll forget about you. You can kind of watch him go back over to his perch over there. And once he forgets about you, you can drop off on this side of the roof and talk to him to get that medallion piece. So that medallion piece is crucial. It is required for a secret area of the game that has bosses for trophies and legendary items that we need to pick up. So make sure you get that Haligtree half medallion. What you want to do though is once you have that, it's actually going to trigger an invasion in the Roundtable hold. So we are going to be avoiding Roundtable hold for the time being. And he just walked right over to where I was because I didn't wait for long enough on top of the roof. I just wanted to demonstrate how you could do it if you needed to. So anyway, I'm going to rest at this grace and reset him so I can warp out of here. Again, do not warp to the Roundtable hold yet, because once you do, you will get invaded. So we're going to avoid the Roundtable hold for the time being. So we got the medallion. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to warp back to the first step. This is the first grace that we unlocked. And we're going to get some other stuff that's going to help us out in the early going here. So what we're going to do is there's a site of grace kind of right here that we want, and then we're going to go to there's ruins here in this lake that we're going to go to next. So we are going to line up with our beacons here and just kind of make a straight shot to where we're headed. So this is a far drop off. Make sure that you kind of go down this way so that you don't go all the way down at once. That might be a lethal drop. You can drop all the way down. And where we're headed is over here to a site of grace. We will be warping to later as well. So after that, we're going to head north to these ruins here. There's going to be a stone sword key that we pick up. And then there's going to be a treasure chest that actually has no treasure inside of it. Instead, it has like this smoke that'll warp you to a different area of the game. So what you want to do now is look for this taller structure here. Inside this door is the stone sword key. Then just head right around the corner. Once you pick it up, go down these stairs, and this is where the trap chest is going to be. There's going to be rats in this room. Just run straight forward. Open up the door as quickly as you can. And then they're going to catch up to you, but you're going to get invisibility frames when you open it up. And then go to this chest. You might take a couple hits, but once you open it up, this smoke is going to warp you. And you see I did take a couple hits there. That's just fine. And once we get to our destination, I'm going to heal up. Now, this is a completely separate section of the map. Much higher level, intended for much higher level than what we are at now. But what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to pick up a couple of items. Mainly what we want is a Somber Smithing Stone 5. So this warps us to the Celia Crystal Tunnel. Again, a completely separate section of the map that we haven't unlocked yet. So I'm going to top off my health. You're going to want to run as fast as you can through this. So hook an immediate U-turn out of that little shack we were just in. Run as fast as you can to this opening, because these enemies will try to snipe you with their long-range attacks. You notice I was rolling kind of down. Rolling will give you dodging invincibility frames. If it takes you a couple tries to do this, no big deal, but just make sure you get to the site of grace. And you'll notice if we look at our map right now, we can't warp because this is considered a trap chest. So it will not allow us to warp right now. However, if we rest at this site of grace, once you rest at a site of grace after you've been trapped, now we are able, well, once we get outside of this cave, we are now able to warp. So this is a separate section of the map called Caelid. And this place is full of scarlet rot. So what we're going to do now is, I can't really place beacons because I don't have the map detail unlocked yet. We're going to head directly south. And this is a scarlet rot swamp. As I said, scarlet rot is a more severe version of poison. So definitely make sure you're riding on horseback so you don't get that scarlet rot buildup. We don't have the faith required yet to use the flame cleanse me spell. So we can't cure scarlet rot if we get it. But once you get that item there, you want to head kind of southwest just to this site of grace. Make sure you unlock this site of grace right here. And then you can rest at it if you want, if enemies are aggroed on you or whatever. And then what you're going to want to do is when you're at this site of grace, you're going to want to head kind of northwestish. You're going to see this. If you head north, so those geysers will hurt you, by the way, so make sure you try to avoid those. So you'll see this giant scarab. We're not going to attack the giant scarab. We don't need it for anything. But the giant scarab is kind of a marker because there's this little canyon you can run down. So run down this canyon, and these little clusters right here will explode and try to hurt you, but just make sure you run past them. If you run past them quickly enough, you don't give them enough of a chance to explode. What we want is this item. This item right here is a Somber Smithing Stone 5, and now we're going to run right back out. What we want to do now is we want to try to warp. We can't warp right now because we have enemies aggroed to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to warp back to right here, the gate front. And we are going to follow this path eastbound. We're going to run straight past these enemies. There's a site of grace right here that I'm going to unlock. And so where we're headed is right past this bridge. Right around here, there's going to be a Somber Smithing Stone Tier 1. And so I'll take this as an opportunity to explain the smithing stone. So there's two different types of smithing stones. There's regular smithing stones and there's somber smithing stones. Now, certain items can only be upgraded, or certain weapons, I should say, can only be upgraded by the regular smithing stones. Certain weapons can only be upgraded by the somber smithing stones. I'm not going to be picking up too many of the regular smithing stones in this playthrough. The weapon that I'm going to be using is more focused on the somber smithing stones. That's what we're going to use to upgrade it. So that's just a little bit on that. So what we're going to do now is, once you pick up the Somber Smithing Stone, you'll notice this little hill up here. We're going to go to the top of it. And this, up at the top of this is going to be an item called a gold pickled fowl foot. And what that item does is it increases the amount of runes that you acquire for a set period of time. I think it's about 3 minutes. And there's a spot in the next episode where we are going to be using this, because there's a spot that's going to give us a ton of runes, and we're going to want to use this gold pickle fowl foot to maximize the rune potential there. So what we're going to be doing now is heading along this path. I'm going to put a beacon here and a beacon here just to make sure that we stay on the path. It's kind of, we're headed due north for now, and then this path branches to the east. We're going to want to follow it to the east. This is actually going to be where we end this episode. And we'll pick things up next time. So we did get one trophy. We got the one trophy from activating the Roundtable hold. In the next episode, we are going to be doing a lot of things that are going to give us more strength, leveling up, make our character more powerful. And then in the next episode, we're just going to be rolling through bosses, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you stick with it. As I said, these first couple episodes are mainly for prep to get us ready to take on the rest of the challenges that this game throws at us. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've found this helpful and fun. As I said, a little bit of a slow-paced start just to get our character set up, but the pace will pick up, especially in the next episode, and then even more in episode 3 as well. So anyways, thanks for following this guide. I hope this video is helpful. Looking forward to doing the rest of this thing, and I'll catch you all next time. So take care and have a good one, everybody.